Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's me. Welcome to my channel. In 2016, when a Staten Island grand jury handed up an indictment against Bonanno crime family underboss Vincent Asaro, he was shocked to learn that one of his alleged co-conspirators was none other than his own daughter. How did he not know? Because she was living under a false identity in Nevada with her real father's money. It was just a matter of time before she became a made woman. When Carmela was just 9 years old, she witnessed the brutal murder of a rival mobster who had been ordered whacked by her very own father, Joseph Messino. Now, how could such a young girl witness such a gruesome event? Well, because her dad was no ordinary hood. So she got married to a nice Italian boy named Anthony Graziano, who had nothing to do with her father's criminal life. In order to keep her true identity under wraps, she adopted the alias of Karen Gravano and claimed her father was a Brooklyn auto mechanic who was long since deceased. By 2004, she was serving as chief financial officer of the Balala Lake Hotel and Casino in Primm, Nevada, which happened to be owned by her father's crew. Carmela visited him often and even stayed with him sometimes when she was in town. And it was all because of her diary. Actually, it was a journal. She called it her life story. In it, she wrote about everything that was going on in her life, including her involvement in the Mafia. He's now 77 years old and up for parole in 2023. Meanwhile, Carmela's ex-husband, Tony Graziano, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comment section. Subscribe to the channel to catch our latest uploads. Catch you on the next one. Das was also arrested in 2016, along with her brother-in-law, Anthony Graziano Jr. Both men were charged with conspiring to commit fraud against the government, but their cases were later dismissed. Today, Carmela lives a quiet life away from the spotlight, although she's still technically a member of the Mafia. However, she never once thought that the journal would end up in the hands of federal agents. But it did, and it contained enough information to implicate her in several crimes, including extortion, money laundering, and racketeering. Suddenly, she became the star witness in a case against her own father and his crew. She even introduced her kids to their grandpa, Pop, as she called him, claiming he was her uncle.
Ow.
Why would she lie to her own children about their own grandfather? Simple. She wanted to protect them from the dark side of the family. You see, when she was growing up, she had seen firsthand how quickly things can turn ugly in the Mafia. All it takes is one loose cannon, she knew, and suddenly your entire family is under threat. That's why she hid her identity from the people in her life. She didn't want to risk any of them getting hurt because of who she was, even though everyone thought she was just some goody two-shoes type. Actually, she was skimming thousands of dollars off the top every month and sending the money back to her family in New York. She was also busy working as a bookkeeper for another crime family business, a waste management company called J&J, which was located in good old Brooklyn. She couldn't believe that her own father would throw her under the bus like that. But he didn't. See, when she was arrested, she had already testified against him in a different case. After pleading guilty to racketeering and extortion, she agreed to cooperate with the feds in order to reduce her sentence. And she didn't have to worry about any prison rough stuff, because she was placed in protective custody. Eventually, she was sentenced to 5 years in prison, but only served 18 months before being released early. Just like her father, Carmela used fear and intimidation to maintain control over her crew. It was even said that she could be quite violent too, as in shoot first and ask questions later. Of course, nobody at her casino or waste management company had any idea that she was anything more than a hard-working single mom trying to put food on the table for her kids. They never saw her wearing expensive jewelry or driving around in a luxury car. On the contrary, she drove a 9-year-old Honda and wore cheap clothes to work. She wasn't about to blow her cover, as if God himself looked down on the Mafia and decided to send them a message. While living in Las Vegas, she was actually arrested twice by the feds. Once in 1989 for running a gambling operation, and again in 1994, extortion. Although she served some time behind bars, she was soon released and popped right back into her old life. What was that, you ask? Well, to put it simply, her father's criminal life. The couple settled in Henderson, Nevada, where Carmela gave birth to 3 children, a boy and 2 girls. By all appearances, Tony and Carla were just an average American married couple with a solid work ethic and a strong religious faith. But beneath the surface, everything was anything but average. He was the boss of the Bonanno crime family, which operated out of Brooklyn. He liked to include his whole family in his criminal enterprise. That included his wife, Mary, and their 2 daughters, Victoria and Carmela. And he only found out about it when federal agents confronted him at his pool hall and told him they were charging his own flesh and blood too. So who is this mafia princess turned mobster, and what did her diary reveal? Let's find out today on this channel. Born in Brooklyn, New York, to Sicilian immigrant parents, like so many of her kind, Carmela was raised in a household where her old world pops ran with the crew. As the girls got older, Carmela and her sister got the typical mafia education. For instance, they were taught that if anyone ever asked them how much money was in their household, they should always answer, none. However, she was book smart too. She graduated high school and went on to earn an associate's degree in accounting, which came in handy when she started working as a secretary for her pop's crew. Even though she used a false name, nobody knew it was the boss's daughter, not even her own mother. That's because Joe Messino kept secret the fact that he even had a second daughter. Only 2 people knew about Carmela, Joe's brother Philip and his lawyer. No wife, no kids, no problems, right? Wrong. His secret daughter would eventually become a problem bigger than the Bada Bing strip club. This was to protect the family's illicit funds from sticky fingers inside and outside the family. They were also taught to be good little girls and never cause any trouble for their dear old daddy, whose name they weren't even supposed to know. Of course, that last bit didn't work out so well, seeing as how both girls eventually went off the reservation. But more on that later. Meanwhile, young Carmela grew up into a stunning brunette with an equally stunning rack. By the early 1990s, Carmela was all grown up and eager to make something of herself. You see, while raising her kids, Carla worked as an executive secretary for a law firm, but her real job was being a mobster. As it turns out, her arrest record was clean enough for her to apply for and get a license to work as an accountant in Nevada. However, one person who knew exactly who she was her father's former underboss, Vincent Asaro, who had retired to Las Vegas after stepping down in 2000. But unbeknownst to her, Vincent Asaro would be the one to get hurt. When federal agents showed up at her door in 2016 to tell her she was under arrest, she was shocked. As for her father, Joseph Messino, he was convicted and sentenced to 15 years in prison. Thanks for watching.